Michio Kaku, a well-known theoretical physicist, has just lately shocked the scientific community by revealing a surprising discovery that was made by the James Webb Space Telescope. This inquiry into a topic that obviously causes him a great deal of anxiety is quite interesting to follow. Brace yourselves, for the James Webb Space Telescope may have just made a finding that may rock the very foundations of our knowledge of the cosmos. It is possible that one may be shocked to learn that influential people such as Michio are heavily involved in the theory that life is thriving on distant worlds in the galaxy and potentially even in our own solar system. There is a possibility that you will find this to be shocking. The renowned thinker in the area of physics known as Professor Michio Kaku feels that this most recent discovery is the key to definitively establishing that the Big Bang concept is nothing more than an urban legend. Keep watching to find out what this discovery is and how it may completely change what we thought we knew about the beginning of our universe. Michio Kaku has revealed terrifying image by James Webb Telescope that changes everything. Have you ever given the mind-boggling topic of how our enormous and beautiful universe came into being any attention at all? The extraordinary occurrence dubbed the Big Bang, which is credited with the creation of the universe as we know it, is considered to be the beginning of everything. Imagine the following scenario. A little speck that is almost imperceptible all of a sudden unleashes great power, resulting in a cataclysmic explosion that ignites a cosmic symphony of heavenly bodies. What outcomes may there be? The Big Bang Theory, which is backed by the great majority of scientists, tells a fascinating story of a universe that began its existence around 13.8 billion years ago at a level of density and heat that is unfathomable to the mind of a human being. This story is a stunning account of a cosmos that began its existence at a time when it was extremely hot and dense. During this extraordinary period of time, atoms did not exist, and everything that we are familiar to today was compressed into an infinitesimally small singularity. This singularity was the beginning of the universe. Then, however, in a turn of events that has not been fully explained to us, this singularity started an incredible expansion, stretching the very fabric of space and time. This is the portion of the narrative that leaves us with more questions than answers. Galaxies have been discovered by the James Webb Space Telescope that appear to be too huge to actually exist. This is the James Webb Space Telescope's first view into the furthest regions of the universe. Ivo Labe, an astronomer, and his colleagues wrote an article that was published in Nature on February 22nd, and it said that 6 galaxies that were present in the universe when it was just 700 million years old appear to be up to 100 times more massive than what is expected by standard cosmological theories. Adding up the stars in those galaxies, it would exceed the total amount of mass available in the universe at that time, stated Labe, one of the Swinburne University of Technology in Melbourne, Australia. Labe is from Australia. Labe is an Australian surname. As one can see, there is definitely some activity going on. The James Webb Space Telescope, more often referred to as JWST, will be the instrument that shows the world its first image of the early universe in the month of July 2022. Within a short period of time, Labe and his co-workers had discovered around a dozen objects that had an unusually dazzling and red coloration. This is an indicator that the objects may be huge and positioned at a considerable distance from one another. An astronomer called Erica Nelson, who works at the University of Colorado in Boulder, said that the images jump out at you right away, meaning that one can practically see them as soon as they glance at these photographs. When astronomers measure the amount of light that is produced by each object in a range of wavelengths, it can give them an estimate of how far away each galaxy is and how many stars it must have in order to generate all of that light. 6 of the things that were identified by Nelson, Labe, and their colleagues possessed a light that appears to have originated from a time no later than around 700 million years after the Big Bang. This information was gleaned from the light's spectrum. It would appear that these galaxies are home to star masses that are up to 10 billion times higher than the mass of our own sun. There is a potential that one of them possesses the mass of 100 billion suns. This would make it the most massive object ever discovered. Nelson is of the opinion that there was no way anybody should have been able to create something with as many stars as the Milky Way in such a short length of time. He thinks this to be impossible. The development of the approximately 60 billion suns worth of stars in our galaxy may be credited to the accumulation of more than 13 billion years worth of experience. It's absolutely incomprehensible that academics have found evidence that such creatures do exist. The main school of thinking in the field of cosmology proposes that the matter in the universe gradually clumped together to produce larger structures, with smaller structures ultimately condensing into larger ones. In addition to this, Nelson began by stating that if there are all of these big galaxies in early periods, then that just cannot be occurring. Laba, one of the likely theories, is that the formation of galaxies is governed by a distinct and mysterious process. This is one of the possible explanations. It would appear that there is a path that may be taken more quickly than others, and this path appears to be the one that is responsible for the development of monstrosities. According to astronomer Emma Curtis Lake of the University of Hertfordshire in England, who was not involved in the current study, it is plausible that some of these galaxies contain supermassive black holes located at the centers of them. She did not contribute in any way to the research that was done for this study. It's possible that the light that appears to be coming from stars is actually coming from the gas and dust that black holes are swallowing, even if it looks like the light is coming from the stars. It is not entirely out of the possibility in her opinion, since she feels that the JWST has previously found something that may be an active supermassive black hole far earlier in the history of the universe than these galaxies are, which means that it occurred much earlier in the history of the universe. It would also be challenging to explain how such a significant number of supermassive black holes could have been found at such an early point in the history of the universe. On the other hand, in contrast to the situation with extramassive galaxies, this wouldn't need modifying the standard model of cosmology at all. It is exceedingly difficult to comprehend how black holes formed and grew in their early stages, because so little is known about them. She goes on to clarify that there is a great deal of ambiguity around the subject of discussion. According to Curtis Lake, in order for scientists to verify the galaxy's distances and masses, they need to use spectra, which are more accurate measurements of the galaxy's light over a variety of wavelengths. They will now be able to determine with absolute certainty what each of these distant objects are. According to Laba, the JWST has already obtained spectra for some of these galaxies, and it is anticipated that more spectra will be obtained for more of these galaxies in the not-too-distant future. If we are fortunate, by this time next year, we will have a significant amount of more knowledge. Be sure to subscribe and turn on post notification to be notified when next we post. It's possible that the objects in question aren't galaxies at all, but rather something else entirely. They may, for instance, be extremely huge black holes of a kind that has never been observed before. Even if this were the case, however, it would still be difficult to account for such a large quantity of material being concentrated in a single location so early in the history of the universe. This might also suggest that our current understanding of black holes has to be updated. Explaining even a single item of this type would be a difficult task in and of itself. The announcement of the finding of 6 has thrown a cosmic monkey wrench into the works, but we need to conduct further research in order to be certain of what it is that we are looking at. The last stage will be to make an effort to acquire spectra of the candidate galaxies. These spectra will provide more insight into the candidate galaxies' natures, distances, and sizes, and will, with any luck, also provide some information on their chemical makeup. Recent findings have shown that there has been a new discovery. Watch the next video, which has left scientists perplexed.